Now, I may be biased because I cover foreign affairs or defense, but what really was striking from this SONA, aside from, again, starting off strong by announcing the charges were forthcoming against former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, was that the extent of which Marcos spoke about foreign policy and geopolitics in this SONA. You have to understand that typically the SONA is limited or is hyper-focused on domestic concerns. Now, towards the end, actually pinakadulo na part ng SONA, after speaking of the dignity of the Filipino, let me quote him directly. Sabi ni President Marcos, our unity and collective consciousness are challenged now greater than ever before. A common threat lies before us, directed against our dignity and self-respect as a people. He did not mention who that common threat was, but we'll contextualize that later. He then said, let me remind our friends and our detractors, Filipinos are a noble, kind, gracious, and great race. We are not greedy, we are not racists, we are not liars. Now, to nobody's surprise, and understandably, Marcos did not say who that common threat was, but siguro read between the lines and understand the context of which he is saying this. Now, last week, as the Philippines was hosting foreign ministers, including the US, China, Russia, India, Australia, and Japan's foreign ministers and ASEAN foreign ministers here in Manila, noong Monday, July 20, nagkaroon ng confrontation for the first time in 2 years between the China Coast Guard and Filipino soldiers in BRP Sierra Madre dahil pumasok ang CCG. Bumaba yung tropa at nagkaroon ng confrontation leading to the injury of 2 soldiers whom Marcos visited in Palawan recently as well. And then days after that, again, yung binanggit ko kanina, ginamitan ng water cannon ng China Coast Guard yung Philippine Coast Guard at BIFAR sa Baho de Masinloc dahil andun sila dahil nagdadala sila ng fuel subsidy para sa mga mangingisda ng Pilipinas. Now, and then last week as well, Marcos did in fact summon Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Jing Quan, over the Ayungin incident. And then the week before that, there was outrage in the Philippines over state-run China Daily's racist video criticizing the arbitral award, but in the process, labeling Filipino or depicting Filipinos as monkeys na puppets lang daw ng powers like US and Japan. Now, these are issues or bilateral issues between China and the Philippines that the Philippines has protested primarily through the DFA, but because, again, nasamo na nga ni President Marcos si Ambassador Jing Quan, also through the President. It's interesting to note na President Marcos has been talking about the need to reset bilateral ties with Beijing. Of course, they're our nearby neighbor to the north, a major trading partner. But again, all these tensions, not just in the maritime space, no, but even diplomatically and politically, have made it understandably harder, one, to actually establish that reset and to convince the Filipino nation perhaps, or at least make it more palatable to sectors in Philippine society to, again, establish better ties with Beijing. Yung notable din dito, binanggit niya ang 2016 Arbitral Award. Of course, yung 10th anniversary ng award was just on July 12. President Marcos attended the DFA's event commemorating that award. Marcos had earlier told the media in early July, before the anniversary, that he was in fact worried daw if the next administration in 2028 does a 180 and change its maritime and foreign affairs policy.